welcome to today's episode of The Adventures of the Windswift. My name is Guy, and I'm joined by my wonderful players, as usual. Sans one, poor old Saket, has been seconded off to the Sajeti Empire for duties required to render unto Pharos, or something like that. Sophie couldn't join us today, but our intrepid crew will continue nonetheless, and Saket will have taken ill or will have been locked away in the galley with Heracon cooking up a storm, I'm sure. So that means Dice of Destiny is a bit limited today to 10-sided dice. Here we go. Number one, Con, you're up.
Brilliant. What happened last time?
Or didn't.
Yeah.
Well, we visited the library, got some information, got on board our ship again for Quaylin.
Right.
Having to negotiate between the elves and the merfolk, apparently.
Sea King.
The Sea King, yes. And
Question is, what is he seeking?
Oh.
this may or may not present problems for our journey, since we did intervene previously in some action between their vessels. So it's not without a certain amount of trepidation that we are embarking on the latest leg of our journey towards Qwethlan.
That's pretty much it. Skip over the stuff they learned, because, yeah, it's not really important. It's just books and words.
I mean, that would be a rehashing of the entire session, right?
They were literally the entire session, yes, absolutely. That's kind of what I was hoping for, just as a play for time.
The only two other things that happened was that Jorg wasn't asked to the crew because he was bored, and Blackstone fixed the Graith Archon problem, we hope.
Yeah, we hope.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And the ship has come to a complete halt. Immediately there are the calls from Mios and the Crow's Nest as the ship has come to a halt. You were all in the map room at that time. What are you doing?
This is after days of travel or so, right? This
2 days of
really...
travel, correct?
Yeah,
You are
this
just
was right
rounding the Great Horn.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if this is right outside the gates or...
No.
He got out to stop.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well...
Beat my feet and run upstairs.
All right. Everyone is looking down the sides. Lieutenant Ty smartens up immediately. It appears that we're entangled in weed again, sirs. I'm not sure what's going on. As she says that, the water starts to bubble, as it has done previously with the merfolk that you've encountered. And rising in the center of it is this very resplendent-looking individual, again, shimmering scales, sort of human features, but very, very fish-like at the same time. These very interesting tendrils or tentacles, you're not sure what they are, drifting down either side of his mouth. As the water column lifts him to the height of the deck, he doesn't actually come onto the ship, but he is standing with his hand outstretched, and in his hand is this beautiful brooch that has been carved out of mother of pearl, and the iridescent oil-like colors play across its surface spectacularly in the sun and the blue sky, and he's holding that towards you.
What is the meaning of this?
Yes.
Do I speak with the captains of the Order?
I don't have a fancy hat, but sure we are.
You do?
This is a traditional gift of peace between our people. Might I board your vessel?
Yes. Please.
The wave moves him and very slowly places him on deck. You can see that he's obviously not accustomed to being on such dry land as his weight kind of sinks down a little bit. He's still holding the brooch out, this thing towards you.
I want to sort of walk up and accept it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be rude. Also, it's very shiny.
I watch
like-
this in the manner of somebody observing an experiment.
Sort of,
Oh.
mm,
I'm waiting for a trident to materialize.
Yeah,
Yes,
Jorg is also a bit on the
Damn
paranoid
straight.
side, just waiting for shit to explode.
You take the
Okay.
brooch and he bends low. You suspect that if he could, his fins that protrude from his spine would be gently undulating in supplication.
I sort of return the bow politely and swish my tail a bit. Sort of.
I have been sent on behalf of the Great Sea Lord, His Majesties of the Oceans, to beseech the Order to withdraw its position in our conflict with the Empire of Vasul.
Oh, well, that's okay. We don't
I
have a
told
position.
you we should have kept sailing.
It's fine. It's all good. This is a misunderstanding. We don't have a position in your conflict with Yvain Vasul. It was mere circumstantial and unfortunate incident, but I'm sure you can understand under the circumstances we had a difficult choice to make. However, it is not our intention to remain in this area or continue hostilities with your people.
The Order does not sanction the actions of the Empire of the Elves.
Well, I cannot speak for the entire Order, only this vessel.
We don't. We keep a neutral position on any political issue. We were just under the false impression that we were under attack last time, and we worked to defend ourselves. We're happy to step out of this conflict.
To the best of
You
our knowledge,
understand, it is not common for our people to encounter your vessels in the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
Special
We had
circumstances.
no way of knowing it was you.
No, of course we understand.
How do you know it now?
We recognized your vessel from the previous encounter.
This question is still unanswered.
We will not attack your vessel moving forward, if that is what you are suggesting.
No, but we didn't hand out business cards last times either.
It is the nature of the oceans to mark those which sail upon it. Your hull configuration is quite unique. It leaves an unusual taste in the water.
if it helps, I can assure you there is no official involvement from the Order, to the best of my knowledge. This is, as I say, merely a circumstantial occurrence, indicative of no greater plan.
It would be prudent of me to extend the support of the Mer-King once more unto the Orders. Should the Order decide to favor the merfolk in this deliberation, the Mer-King is willing to increase his support to the Order's coffers substantially.
We don't even know what this conflict is about. And you already heard that we usually take a neutral stance on such topics, so I see no possible way we even could take sides.
I understand completely. It is rare that we encounter anyone from the Order anyway. Very seldom do you have any recourse to journey onto the waves and meet our people. It would be remiss of me not to have sought out a favor from the almighty Orders. I meant
imagine.
no offense by it.
None taken.
Of course, if you do wish to renegotiate the Mer Kingdom's contribution to the Order, I strongly recommend you take it up with our administration. I'm sure they would be most accommodating.
Yeah.
I will pass your very generous offer on to our ambassadors, responsible for that communication. Now, if we are concluded in our business, I will leave. All this dry air is difficult.
Of course.
It's
Thank
water
you.
under the bridge already.
Thank you for the fine gift and the fine,
Talk.
Yes, good talk.
The water tendril almost seems to wrap itself around him and then lift him off of the deck, and then he disappears below the waves. The ship once again starts to move, and Mios shouts, "The seaweed it's retracting! We're moving again!"
Thank you, Mios.
Thank you, Captain.
And the ship continues to sail onward, and
Yorick,
seem to...
Mhm.
what's our current stance on firing on non-aggressive people we come across?
Are you referring to shooting at innocent people who have not attacked us, or what do you mean?
No, on the entire incident that happened. What is it? A week's back?
You mean the incident with the elves?
Yes.
I think that's a moment-to-moment decision. I don't think we have a stance on that thing.
All right.
In that case, it was a matter of we're being attacked, we defend ourselves.
Well, I wasn't above deck, so I couldn't
Well,
see, but
Granted, we were not directly attacked, but we assumed we were. So.
our escort was attacked.
Yes.
But honestly, I wanted to keep going, but no, we had to go help out and almost start a war.
well,
There
maybe we should.
already is a war.
The war had already
Yeah,
started,
but there isn't a war between them and us.
and there still isn't.
I think we are very lucky right now.
Yeah,
If anything, this could have been bothersome or lethal.
a horrifyingly messy diplomatic incident where we murdered a bunch of their people.
Yes. So we might need to.
I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't right.
Fun?
I
You
don't
worry
think
me.
fun
It
is
was
the word you're looking
flying
for.
around,
I think it was
We'll be back.
exciting you're looking for.
Yes, exciting. It wasn't fun.
Anyway, I think we need to reevaluate our behavior in these kinds of circumstances for the future, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Supposed
Perhaps.
to be neutral.
Yes, but we were not aware of any war. Our escort was simply attacked, and we assumed we were attacked as well. So at that point, it was self-defense. That was the reason we did anything. But of course, we're not going to interfere in conflicts that we are not a part of, if we are aware of the conflict, that is. So I see your point, Blackston. I do.
I
But
thought
in this
the elves mentioned
situation, I
something
don't
along
think it
those
could have been
lines.
handled any other way.
Anyway,
Let's
let's
not
continue.
forget that we are also making a decision in these circumstances as to whether or not we abandon people that we have taken up companionship with when they are attacked and killed.
I
I
suppose
think
that's
the elves
fine.
would just see it as logical, but
They did tell us to move on.
True.
let's do that now, I think.
Well, we're moving. It's a ship.
What about this brooch then? Is it
Well, it's-
cool?
I
Flying
can
on us?
find out. I mean, I don't.
It might be
Moment.
a good procedure, yes.
Yes.
I'm about to be done with spying devices on our ship we don't know about.
Traps and
Yeah,
spies
fine.
and bombs.
I'll figure it out. Sort of sit down on the deck and just put it there and start casting detect magic as a ritual.
All right.
Because I have so many spells now, I can't keep them all prepared. I love it.
All right, so you're going to start going through that, and the rest of you are going about your shiply duties and activities. Is that correct?
Well, my duties are done at the moment, so actually sit down next to Adresai and try out that sand zen thing that they've been trying to teach me.
I'll bring that out once I've finished the ritual.
All right.
I'll show you, and you are not allowed to leave.
Con, what are you doing?
Training with me.
Ah.
Yeah.
You're not getting away. Not starts today.
Well, yeah, I have a fair amount of determination to master the proficiency of this weapon, so I'm quite enthusiastically engaged in my training exercises with Blackston, in between which I keep an eye on the running of the vessel and harvest my plant for its special potions.
You must have quite a few of those potions by now.
Yeah, well, pulling up a nice stock.
I did hand out 2 to everyone.
Right.
So I'm back down to 4, I guess, depending on how long this voyage lasts.
Yeah. Well, you've got another 5 days to Qwethlan from here, so...
Okay, well, by the end, I'll have 9.
Yeah.
Well, good to build up a stock. Well, if we're talking about what to do during the journey, I guess I want to find out if it's magical first.
Yes. So there is a small amount of magic upon it. It is a transmutation magic, which upon further investigation, you suspect when the brooch is submerged in seawater, it will glow like a quite brilliant light indefinitely.
Ooh. I test it.
You sort of scoop up some seawater in a bucket, you drop the brooch in the bucket, and it glows brilliantly. It's almost too bright to look at. You suspect that this will probably glow and illuminate a 60-foot radius without any problems whatsoever.
This is amazing. Well, we might.
The colors that scintillate off of it are the mother of pearl colors. So there's greens, and then there's pinks, and then there's blues and turquoises, and it's just this rainbow of colors.
For now, sort of while we're traveling, I'm going to keep it sort of in a glass jar in my room, sort of for light.
Right.
And I'll sort of put it away in a cupboard or something when I want to turn it off.
Well, to turn it off, you just take it out of the
yeah, I just take it out, of course. Yeah.
So for the first 3 days, Adresai sleeps with the thing in the cupboard until day 4. There's a realization, oh, shit, take it out the jar. Yeah.
I have an intelligence of 19, guys.
Right.
Other wisdom, intelligent.
Yeah.
I have 14 wisdom, I'm supposed.
Good.
Hey,
anyway.
You know what? I just got excited. It happens. But yeah, the rest of the time, I also want to sort of demonstrate the new spells I've learned. Also, at some point, I absolutely want to do some teleportation training with Jorik, where we sort of, because he has the one where he can switch places with people and teleport. So sort of what we do is that, like, I stand on the deck. I do my best to convince him to do this anyway. Like, I stand on the deck. He climbs up into the mast. He jumps off, switches places with me, and I use Misty Step to get back onto the ship as a sort of precision training thing.
Just practice on getting timings right and moving.
Yeah, like timing and precision and
For your
stuff.
first attempt, I want you both to roll initiative, please.
All right.
It's 10.
All right, initiative.
Or do I have the +2 because I'm around you?
Where is it? There it is.
Do I
Wow,
have the-
24. Holy crap.
Nice.
Yeah. So what
Ahead of
happens
me,
is
anyway.
Eager Beaver, he jumps whilst you're still getting ready to Misty Step. So there is this terrified scream. Jorik continues to fall. Well, he
switches
with
places
you.
with me, and
Yes.
I'm
So
not ready.
you suddenly are falling, and then you throw out your magic. So this delicate juggling act slowly starts to get better as you start to pick up on each other's cues as to, okay, when do you trigger it? Does it go on 3 or is it on 4 after 3, but we don't say 4, but it's before we say the F, so it's that kind of timing that needs to play out.
Yeah. No, we
Right,
practice it sort of back and forth.
So there's this zorping around the ship whilst Con and Blackston slam into one another with their practice swords. And the journey continues for several days. Blackston, are you going to do anything specifically during the 4th day?
Specifically, no. Standing up, doing a prayer, and the sermon, breakfast, training with Con for a few hours, doing general duty on boat because everybody needs to take part of it for a few hours.
Sure.
Some training on my own so I don't get rusty. And in the afternoon, playing cards.
Sure.
With the crew.
I also sort of demonstrating the new spells I've learned. I have at one point gone up to Blackston's sword and I cast magic weapon on it. Sort of let me sort of check this out. That works very well. Nice and shiny. That should give you some extra oomph. It's a gift. I found it in the library. And
okay.
Yeah.
How long does that last?
It lasts for an hour. It's a concentration spell, so it lasts for as long as I want it to, but just sort of demonstrating it. And I also want to show you Warding Wind at some point, where I tell everyone sort of, hold on, strap everything down. I've been practicing my wind, and then I sort of cast this massive fucking whirlwind that just sort of pushes the ship forwards. For like a 10 full minutes, there's just like a waves splashing behind like a motorboat kind of.
Yes, it does get your speed up quite considerably for the duration.
Yes.
Sadly, as you say, it is only 10 minutes.
Well, it's a burst. And then I sort of have to sit down and sort of go, that was fun. That was amazing, though. Hey, your hair looks weird.
Yeah, Lieutenant Ty is busy pulling it back into the usual type.
Oh, no.
All right, well, 5 days pass. You don't see another ship aside from elvish naval vessels, either sailing deeper out into the Earthweir Ocean or returning badly damaged. Masts destroyed, great big holes in their hulls because they have the hull shape. Sometimes they're returning, one whole side is completely missing and it looks like a winged duck slowly making its way back to shore. Whatever is going on is getting worse, and you don't know what's happening to the merfolk, but certainly what seems to be happening to the elves is they seem to be getting beaten.
And they're fighting on their territory, right?
Correct. The elves are at a significant disadvantage in this case.
Very logical to do this.
Well, logically, there was a whole bunch of things that they should have done, or maybe they did do or didn't do. We don't know, but yes, So
I think one thing that I would advocate for is if we see these ships coming back, specifically,
yes,
be extremely battered and broken, to at least signal them and see if there's any assistance they need right now. Even though I don't think we need to participate, some humane or humanoid really might be
healing and
might be still mandatory, at least in my mind.
Right. Most of the vessels that you signal return that they do not require assistance. Naxon will turn to you and he'll say, I have never experienced aggressive signaling before, but they are definitely not happy, Captain. That was very angry. No, thank you. One of the vessels, however, does accept aid. And it pulls, well, you pull alongside it because it's badly damaged. Right. And a very young, very inexperienced looking officer, elvish officer, yes, it's always only elves, climbs down onto deck, and he introduces himself as Third Officer Lockweir. Any assistance you might render would be greatly appreciated. My captain is dead, and the first officer is gravely wounded. our healers are unable to stabilize his condition, and I fear he will not survive our return to Wraithwen Weir.
Con,
I
this
think
would
I
be a
can
good moment to
assist
do
him.
some things.
Yes, let me see him at once.
Let's go have a look.
He takes
All
you
right,
on
I'll
board.
stay on board then.
If you have anything vital that's broken, I could deal with that in the meantime. Otherwise, I'm not very helpful.
You sort of look at the vessel, which is on its side, cracked timbers everywhere. It's like
I just look at
Immediately
Adosai.
vital.
I just look at Adosai and say, "Let's not go overboard here."
Can you get onto this vessel? And it really looks like it has been torn up. Decking has been ripped out. There are great big holes leading down into the lower hull of the ship. The wounded are everywhere. And what is unusual is the nature of a lot of their wounds. You have never seen elves that look like whales, but these elves have swollen up like you cannot believe, and their skin has turned black. It's immediately obvious they have been poisoned with some kind of it must be a necrotic kind of poison at the very least, because the cellular damage is significant. Whatever they've been injected with is horrific. It literally just rots the flesh at the point of the bite and spreads outwards.
Right.
So by the time you arrive at the captain, the smell has become so pervasive that you are completely used to this rancid, rotting aroma with a very, very strong fish undertone to the whole thing. And the captain is lying in a fairly ostentatious, but still at the same time Spartan, elvish captain's quarters. And his whole side has swollen out and is completely black with necroses, with sort of purple tendrils running along his veins as the poison is spreading through him.
The first officer, you mean?
The first officer, yes. Sorry, not the captain.
Right. This is bad. This is very bad.
Jorik will put his hands not on the necrosis, but just on the first officer and sort of probe his body with his mind. Jorik has never done this live before, so he's trying to use his powers to understand what's going on, and also talks to Con in the meantime, just trying to understand what the hell is happening to this man.
Well, they've used some sort of poison or venom. I'm not sure what. Can I attempt to identify?
Yeah, you can both give me medicine checks.
Medicine.
Well, I shall simply cast the detect. No, that's not going to do it.
15.
Oh, yeah. I cast detect poison and disease.
Right.
Which allows me to identify the kind of poisonous creature or disease in this case.
Okay. So it is a natural poison. It's not an unnatural poison. As a matter of fact, you can still find in one of the puncture wounds, because it looks as if he's been hit about 6 or 7 times by these little, very small darts. And you can pull out a dart. Well, it's not so much a dart. It looks like a claw or a hook from an aquatic creature of some kind that has injected this stuff into him. The terrifying thing, you realize, both of you, is that these hooks, they obviously contain quite a large amount of venom, because when you pull them out, you realize that they're still seeping venom into the actual wound itself. So if you get
like a bee stinger.
Yes,
like a bee stinger, yeah.
Correct. So you realize that if you get hit by these things and you don't immediately remove them, they're going to continue to inject poison into you. to try and take you out. Like I said, the poison itself is necrotic, so what it does is it destroys the tissue around the wound, and that, of course, just leads to bacterial infection, all kinds of wonderful internal infections as well. And so generally the only current method would be to simply remove all of the necrotic flesh. In the case of the first officer, you would be cutting him in half, pretty much. Your healing magic will heal, but unfortunately, the flesh is not reparable. It is dead flesh.
Regeneration or healing, actual healing.
Yes. So your healing spell won't help in this case. It will heal the flesh that's still healthy and that's still alive, but that's underneath all of this necrotic stuff. So there's no wound to seal, basically. You have to cut away the dead flesh first and then use healing to seal it up.
I look at Jorik. I don't have the resources to help everyone on this ship.
Well, maybe not everyone
It's not imperative that you assist everybody on this vessel, merely the first officer. The majority of those individuals on deck are lower born. They are not needed.
Let me handle this, Con. Focus on the first officer. Call me if you need me, all right?
Right.
Is the third officer still on board our ship?
No, he went with Con and Jorik. Yeah.
I will go and look over the other soldiers. Look for these barbs, these hooks, and remove them, and sort of make a documentation over how badly injured everyone is, and then try to figure out which ones I can help.
Try and get
and which ones are too far gone. So I'm basically making a triage list.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go help him.
All right, absolutely. Blackston, would you give me what is your passive perception?
Oh my God! Are we using?
No.
11.
Okay, would you give me a perception roll, please?
We just did this to spite me for.
No, I am trying. So your roll was 4? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Apart from the wrecked ship, everything else seems calm. There is the coast to the west, but otherwise.
So while the others are trying to see if there's any people to save and whatnot, which, I mean, I don't really want everybody to leave the ship right now. That's why I'm kind of staying here, right?
Right.
I would then, however, take a closer look at the trimaran, was it?
Yep, trimaran.
Yeah, trimaran that we kind of are next to, and see what kind of damage the structure itself has.
Right.
has
Okay.
gotten.
Absolutely. All right. So the surgery, are you going to perform the surgery, Con?
Well, that was my first, yeah. So in my professional opinion, based on the description of the analysis you've just given me, it doesn't seem to me like he's actually going to be savable. Would that be correct?
How far away are we from
I can halt the poison and I can cure him, but I would have to cut out so much of him that it's contrary to sort of
Yes. So your biggest challenge is the amount of flesh that needs to be cut out. You can't do this delicately. You would need someone to come in and basically hack out the entire piece in one shot, because you don't have the technology to very carefully cut away almost 2 feet worth of necrotized flesh.
And is it just the flesh, or is it organs affected as well?
You can't really tell too far. It's difficult until you've removed the outer surface to see what's happening underneath.
Okay,
but
so
he is still breathing, sweating profusely.
Yeah.
His breathing
How
is
far away are we from shore, the next city?
Unfortunately, where you are literally now at the point between Wraithwamweir and Qwethlan. There are no
5
cities
days.
on this side of Ithane Vasul. And they're both 5 days in either direction, or 4 days to Qwethlan,
Whatever, yeah.
and 6 to Wraithwamweir.
So here's what I'm going to do to start with, is pour some pain-killing potion down his gullet.
Right.
And then make an exploratory incision to determine the state of his organs.
All right. Give me a reflex saving throw, please.
Oh, God. Awesome.
That's the dexterity save, right?
Yes. Dexterity save. I don't know why I call it reflex. I haven't played Pathfinder in ages. I swear. Scouts on it.
Yeah, but it's all those years of 3.5, right?
They had reflex, didn't they? 3.5.
Yeah.
4th edition had reflex too.
There we go.
It's ingrained. I do it as well.
Everybody knows what you mean, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's 14.
I'm just trying to learn. That's why I'm asking.
All right.
Okay.
Con. Oh, dear. All right. As you do this first incision, you realize that there is more to this than meets the eye. Because as you slice open some of the flesh, you realize that there are little sacs inside the flesh. And you cut open one of the sacs, and this little squid-like thing lurches out and just slaps itself across
Alien!
No.
And you can feel these little hooks trying to bite into your flesh.
Question is it the same weapon? Is this one process? Interesting.
So what are you doing?
I cast Barkskin.
Nope. I am Groot. All right. That gives you an advantage to your armor class, right?
I think it's bonus of...
Cannot be less than 16 or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. This little thing tries to bite you. Nope, it does not. You can feel it snapping against your hardened skin.
And I sort of whip it off if I can, stamp on it.
Yep. You grab it. As you grab it, this little thing starts to twist around in your hand. And again, you can feel its little beak trying to... Oh, you just squeak. There's this satisfying... and little bits of entrails ooze out of both sides of your hand, and the tentacles move for a little bit, and then they hang limp.
Something for Hurricane later, fresh, after all.
Well, I hear this, so I look over to Colin. What's going on over there?
Yeah, you probably hear a lot of swearing from the cabin.
And you're a tree.
So Cohen's like, oh, you're right. What happened?
What's happening?
No, I am not all right. This has gotten really rather bad. Shit. They don't write about this in medical school. I'm caught between wanting to incinerate him and... Okay, out come the implements. We have a problem. The wounds are infested with some sort of eggs.
Ugh.
And I hold up the dangly thing.
Oh.
There's lots more.
That's nasty.
They're aggressive. I guess they're designed to pop out and attack the uninfected.
Oh, goodness.
That's really
I
cruel.
have no idea how long we have.
All right, what do you need help with?
Oh, Jesus.
Do you need help?
Who's this Jesus you're talking about?
Burn the ship down. Just burn the ship down. We're going back to land.
Nope.
Yeah, this is kind of...
Question. Could I
I need
use...
to make a judgment call on this first officer. I mean, in light of this fresh evidence, is he savable? Seriously.
I know this is not the intended use, but could I use Ray of Frost to sort of semi-freeze this area so that these things will at least not jump out? The sort of the dead flesh?
Are you proposing that to Con?
Yeah, why not? I just don't know if it will like automatically come out as a spear kind of thing, or if it's
Stab.
or if it's like if it is a cold that shows up that is then formed into a weapon. I'm not sure how the spell, like which thing comes first.
It's a
the
lowly
stab.
spell. I'm fairly certain you could modify its shape with a few words.
It's a cantrip, actually.
Yes, Speros instead of Speros. I mean, it's
Yes.
a matter of an H.
It might help, certainly.
Might slow these things down at least.
Is he at
But
risk
make-
of dying from the...
Could kill the patient, and it will make removing the flesh more difficult.
I could try and reconstruct his skin as you're cutting.
You can do that?
That's why I'm trying to learn. I've realized that I can sense into people's bodies and change them. Yes.
Right. Well, I'll be out of a job soon.
No, I don't think so. You know a lot more than I do.
Okay.
You
Well,
are just full of surprises, Turek.
if you...
I know.
All right. Okay.
To me
well,
too. That's the problem.
I don't know how many of the crew are infected.
Yes,
It
indeed.
looks to be, of the 22 crew members remaining, it looks as if the only one who wasn't affected was the third officer.
Oh, wow.
And they're in differing stages of badness.
Yes, some are worse than the captain, to the point that you kind of looked at them, you weren't even sure they were alive until this ragged breath kind of made them shiver. Others, it's a hand that is twice its size and is completely black. And they've got sort of, they realize that if you tied cabling around the organ or the part that was infected, it slowed down the spread. It didn't stop the spread, but it slowed it down.
Yeah, I think
I've been moving around removing the barbs, by the way. So
yeah, well, once
any
they
barbs
realize
found, I
that,
would
they'll start doing that themselves.
Yeah.
You're going to have to amputate those kinds of limbs.
yeah, I think that might be a good idea.
It's just not
Look.
sure. I don't know if I'm wasting my time on this first officer as I get my knives out and set to work.
All right.
In either case, we're wasting their time in getting back to their doctors.
Adressai, you're going to try and freeze the wound. Jorik, you're going to try and internally heal the wound. And Con, you're
Natural 20 on medicine, by the way.
just
Ooh.
playing Sweeney Todd on the
Well, I'm also going to cast protection from poison on the patient.
Ah, that's interesting. All right. So
Jorik will sit.
this
Jorik will sit down at the patient's head and just place his hands on the patient's head and close his eyes, and his mind goes into his body, trying to realize what's going on. And as Con is cutting, try to start building new tissue. I mend wounds. That's it.
Blackston, you're approached by Mios, who comes and stands kind of formally next to you. And he kind of looks out of the ocean. Then he turns away from the ocean and looks to the other side of the ship and the ocean. And then he sort of looks at the deck. And as he's looking at the deck, he goes, "Captain, we're being watched by a whale."
He's learning. I'm proud of him.
Oh, he's so good.
It's
I
off
know.
the port bow, about 300 yards or so. Just thought I'd tell you.
Well done. Kind of look over. Do I see it?
So, yes, if he hadn't pointed it out to you, it would have just looked, well, like a wave, really. But now that you look, you can see there is definitely a dark shape that's just breached the waves. And you get a flicker every now and again of that sort of silvery shape of one of the merfolk that you saw before. Probably sitting on the back of this thing with their head just out of the water.
Very
What
still, yeah.
meters?
They're about 300 feet away from the ship.
So 100 meters?
Yeah,
So what you're saying, they're sitting at periscope depth?
pretty much.
Blackson is going to have a thing about whales after this, isn't he? After
Whale,
this whole
whale,
thing.
whale.
Why is it always whales?
All right, I will cast Hunter's Mark on the whale.
Hunter's mark on the whale. Does the target, I think the target does become aware that they've had a mark placed on them, don't they? Just have a look at that. Just read that. I seem to recall that being the case, but that might be...
You choose a creature you can see within
All
It's
right.
90 feet, so I can't even do it.
All right.
Oh.
They're not moving. They're just watching.
Because I wanted to do it because I can track it afterwards, but 90 feet is
Yeah. All right. Back to the three of you and your difficult surgery. You start the process. You start the freezing. You start the cutting away. You're trying the rebuilding. And it's going to take you a long time to do this. You reckon probably 4 or 5 hours at the soonest to do this. But you seem to be making progress. The speed at which you're freezing the flesh, at which the flesh is sort of being rebuilt, you're cutting away, the fact that the poison is being halted. Every now and again, you hear a sort of a strange sound coming from a piece of the flesh, and it forms a little hard lump underneath the blackened skin. And when you cut that away, you realize that each puncture wound has at least 3 or 4 eggs around that wound. And when the eggs freeze, they harden and inflate, causing these bumps underneath the skin. And in each one of those, you can see a little frozen squiddling thing just ready to erupt and venture forth.
Attack your face.
Well, whatever they can, basically. Blackston, what are you doing during this time?
Yeah, do we have some sort of magnifying glass or whatever?
There is a telescope, absolutely. Yep. Jockenstoke has it.
Yeah.
Blackston is basically saying, "I see you."
Yes. So you make no bones about the fact that you're looking out at the creature. It's definitely a merfolk who is riding on the back of this whale. You get the distinct impression that they are analyzing what's going on. They're not sure, obviously, what's happening on the ship, but they
could just be pirates taking easy prey.
could be, yes.
Probably not.
But they basically, it looks like they're waiting and watching.
What do they wear?
So
what do they have on stuff on them?
Yes, they do. Yes, to a degree. It's not a huge amount. It's not heavy plate mail, for example.
Like weapons,
it's very fine mesh. It looks more like almost like chainmail, but a very fine woven chainmail with lots of adornment, very strange adornment. Sort of shells have been tied in place, bits of coral have been tied on, seaweed's been tied on. And
they have these, what I assume are these.
It does look like it. Yes, you can see that on his back. He's got 2 different lengths of quarterstaff, or as you sort of see, you realize, hang on, it actually has a tube inside of it.
I mean, I probably wouldn't see this on this range, but he has like some.
Oh yeah, but yeah,
like a 2 feet, 3 feet long staff.
Correct.
Okay, just looking. After I've seen this, it's fine. I can track him now.
Yeah. So for 4 long, arduous hours. Yeah.
Sorry, could I speed it up if I cast magic weapon on Con's scalpel?
So we're not trying to kill the patient.
No, but it becomes like sharper and more like
you ponder that for a while, but you realize that that's not the speed isn't the factor. The factor is it's the freezing, the regrowth, and then the slow cutaway. The scalpel is the flesh itself. Con could probably just grab it with his hand and just peel it off.
Okay. Sorry I asked.
Yeah.
So after about half an hour and they're not coming back and I don't know what's going on, right?
Yes.
I would then go over and see from what's going on there.
Sure.
I'm not waiting 5 hours for them to be
missing. No.
I'm sure they're fine.
Yeah, you step onto the deck and you see the same carnage, although by now it's starting to subside as they're starting to get a handle on what they should be doing. Some of them have died because of exposure. The 3rd officer comes up to you and says, "We will be eternally grateful for anything that your fellow captains can do for our 1st officer."
Yes. I wonder, what were you doing out there?
The Empire is at war with the merfolk.
Yes, we heard, and we've seen it already, but I wonder, what is this even about? And why are you going out in droves onto the ocean just to, and they kind of look around and kind of gesture at the rest of the boat, die?
The Empire of Athane Vasul requires and relies very heavily on naval trade. That trade is under threat with the demands that the Merking has attempted to impose upon our emperor. Pursuant to that, we have several outposts that were, for several centuries, discreetly located along the borders of the Orcish and Goblin territories in the ocean. We must defend those outposts at all costs.
All right. It sounds, kind of mull the words over in my mouth a little bit, reasonable.
Indeed.
But what are those demands to warrant such a high price?
I am not privy to the negotiations that have taken place between the Merking and our emperor. Suffice it to say that they were unacceptable in terms of what the empire is willing to pay.
Right. Okay, so where were you headed going back anyways?
Currently,
I don't think you'll get far.
Your assessment of our situation is correct. The damage to our vessel is significant. We were hoping to simply make landfall before the vessel was completely consumed by the ocean. We are but a few. He sort of looks over. The coastline is probably a day away from where you are.
All right.
We had hoped to reach it by nightfall, although the opportunity to save our first officer is more important than...
All right. I will take a look and see what my fellow comrades are doing to save this poor fellow. But in the meantime, I think you can get your crew ready to leave the vessel.
You are...
But I will speak about this, obviously, with the other captains. I think letting you just, die seems wrong.
I am glad that that is of your opinion. If it will weigh in anything in terms of your deliberations, merely myself and the first officer are required to be rescued. The remainder of the crew are all low-born and serve no purpose in the Empire other than to do their duty, which they have done. Wasting resources on their return would be, exactly that, and a waste of resources.
Right. Let me see what my comrades are doing and kind of get over there, see the situation.
Yes.
What I can do to help is cast Lesser Restoration on the it's not Captain, First Officer, right? On Riker. In lieu of a better name, or his actual name, because he's always called the First Officer.
That's it.
What Lesser Restoration does is you touch a creature and can end either one disease or one condition affecting it. The condition can be blinded, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned. So
nice.
If it's a disease or poison, I guess it's not just like he's fine now, because that would be ridiculous in light of the entire operation, but at least probably.
Yes. Well, what it'll do is it halves the surgery time from 5 hours down to 2. As this first officer is just being imbued with energy from all quarters, all quadrants of magic are being used here.
Right. And while we operate on Riker, I would then kind of talk about the situation and the situation for these sailors primarily, and that I think it would be the right quote unquote thing to do to at least get them to shore. As we are already being watched.
We're being watched?
Yes.
I was worried about something like this. Look, I suspect the merfolk may look unkindly on this activity, but I agree.
That might be, but I'm not saying we should attack them or anything. We're just helping fellow sailors in need.
Well, I mean,
I agree.
If we just take them to the shore and leave them there, they're all going to die. Like, they all need to get back to an actual city with actual healers that can actually help them. Like, if we just dump them on a beach somewhere, they're all dead.
I would say several of them are not that bad off. Con and I can help them.
Yes, well, that for one, and for two, are there, like, I mean, I understand that there are maybe not cities on the shoreline with harbors, but maybe somewhat inwards where they could get fairly easily. Is that a possibility? And the most critical positions people we could just keep aboard and then just like basically.
Well, the entire coastline around here is mountains, basically. Like the entire...
Yeah, the map does not indicate smaller towns and villages, so those would be... There would be definite... It's not as if that entire coastline is abandoned, but they would be far and few between. But yes...
They're fishing villages, etc.
There is civilization out there. It's just not...
So then I would advocate then for taking the worst people, like, for instance, Riker, and keeping them on board to get them to like proper healing, proper care as soon as possible, because also he and the others who are very worse off would slow the rest on shoreline down significantly, while the ones with like just a few scratches, I mean, right, can probably take care of themselves. Maybe there's another like vessel coming by. They know their place. They know their kind of home better than we do. And if they're saying that was their plan anyway, that would be my offer to them. I don't know how you feel about this, but that's me.
It sounds reasonable, I think.
So
Once we finish with number one here, we'll have a look at the rest.
Well, yeah, on that note, that spell Blackstone used is familiar to me. Unfortunately, not prepared. But when I see that happening, I kind of look at him and go, I don't give a bugger what that idiot outside says. Some of those young lads could probably do with that aid as well. Unfortunately, it's beyond me at this point.
Well, yes, I'll take a look, but I don't have I have one more use. So.
Eeny, meeny, miny, you. Yeah.
Oh, it's the devil's choice. It's just
dying is not for you. I mean,
I'm the one who looks like they can walk the least, I suppose.
So, like, going back to the trash report, like, usually you have these three kind of groups, right? Dead, critical, and can care of themselves.
Yes.
I mean, then I would just take a look at critical and see if they can do anything for anybody.
Right. All right. So your operation takes 2 hours to get through, and the first officer, well, he's obviously tenacious and a fighter, because by the time you finish wrapping the bandage around the wound, his breathing seems a little bit less labored. When you got to his rib cage, you realized that the infection had basically just got to the interstitial muscles of the ribs and was starting to make its way in there, but because of your intervention, you'd stopped it. So basically, it was his entire pectoral muscle.
Armor too, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. His whole arm is gone. Basically, there's nothing to save it that you cut away from. But he does seem to be on the road to recovery. He'll probably wake up tomorrow morning. Simply because of the amount of magic that you poured into him, as well as the actual
drugged up. All drugged up. Like, I have magic. Nice.
Blackstone, you've saved someone. You cast your lesser restoration on someone and saved their life. As the night falls, because it does.
Guy, before you go on, this is up to you. You have to decide on how much energy Jorg has poured into this dude, but I do have restore health, which is similar to greater restoration, or the restoration that's like so I could save a few more if Jorg is up to it.
Right,
but that's up to you.
Yeah, well, like I said, between the four of you, by the time night falls, you've moved. Let's do it this way. The dice of destiny. You've moved 3 people from critical to, all right, if they spend a week in bed and that body part gets cut off, or they see another healer, they'll be okay, but they're not going to now die from those afflictions. So you lose 5, so you're down to 14. But it's 14 people who can now almost take care of themselves, and who will eventually recover.
So if we're then d'accord on what I brought forth, then we would basically take the 4 people to our destination, and then the 11 rest on shore, because I don't think we have enough like stuff and place to have like double the crew size, like for.
No, they would
Are
have.
we really taking a bunch of people aboard our ship? Isn't that like really against the rules?
I think that falls under captain's privilege.
And we don't really need them to move around the boat much. And the 4 people I've spoke about, they're not moving around anyways.
Another side, I think the main reason for that was the engines, which is not a problem anymore.
Yeah, but it's still a rule that we're supposed to follow, right?
Yeah, we keep
and
them,
nobody's supposed to know that the engine isn't an
and
issue.
we'll keep an eye on them and keep them on deck for as long. And then
as long as they stay on the deck and don't go underneath.
They'll be bedbound for the entire journey.
The other 4 are bedbound, as Con said. And I guess there will always be one person with them just to see if they're not dying on us.
Yes.
I'm just saying,
I'll keep an eye on them.
I understand that this is happening, but I just want to lodge an official I'm not okay
Put
with
it in your report.
Well,
I might.
You do it.
I just might.
You can hand that report over to the Archon just before you cut his head off.
Here, I just need you to read this
Yes,
first.
I have a complaint to learn to stab
people. No.
All right. Well, you take the first officer, the third officer, and do you impress upon them that you want to take 2 more? Because once the first
say we are going the way anyway, why would it be a loss of resource or a waste?
The ones who are alive are going on the ship, period.
Well, I ignore the third officer. The 4 people who are critical get taken.
And if he has a problem, he is a third officer.
Well,
we
he's
are
fine.
4 captains.
No. The third officer, I would say, the third officer being an officer and being fine health-wise can help the remaining officers we drop on the beach, or the remaining crew. He can lead his crew back to wherever they need to go, whilst we take the 4 most critical to city.
And the captain was dead all along, right? He was
Yes.
overboard.
So it's down to the third officer to take the remaining able-bodied crew members on their way.
Right. That's his job now.
That is one way of looking at it. Alternatively, it is their responsibility to ensure my safety to return me back to the city.
Yeah.
I comply with your requests.
I just look at him like, yeah, comply or don't. I don't care.
Either way, you're not staying on this ship.
All right, so you load...
Yeah. Sorry. If I can actually cast sending to... If I talk to the third officer and I tell him, if there's anyone I've met in the city of Rithemweir that I could contact, that could then contact their, military command... Because I need to be familiar with the person I'm sending it.
What about the person, the captain we met on the other boat?
Yeah, or the librarian.
The librarian, yes.
You got drunk with the librarian, you can do that.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with him. No. No, not that way. I did not have sex with a 5,000-year-old man. Anyway.
800, thank you very much.
Sorry. 800.
But you look 5,000.
You do. Have another drink.
Yeah. Now you look 4,000. Another drink.
Yeah.
You're getting younger and more pretty.
Yeah, the more I drink, the better he looks. Anyway, we did not do the do.
Sure.
I'm going to send him a message and just ask him. I can send 25 words. I basically the name of the ship. Tell him please contact.
Find us at
military command. We've left them here.
15 words. so far?
Oh, I was just sort of like that. Those words are not enough to like get that message.
And
I don't think
the
that's.
Map coordinates?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm the navigator. I just
North,
like
longitude,
as few words as possible.
23 longitudes.
Yeah. So you send that message off.
Yes, he can make a reply as well if he wants to.
Yes, his reply would be,
Okay.
all right, but you owe me another drink. Is the response that comes back. Yes, so you then take the first officer and 2 of the injured crewmen with you. You deposit the 11 or the 12 remaining crewmen plus the 3rd officer on the beach with whatever supplies they can scrounge from the vessel. The 3rd officer entrusts to your care a rather ornate gold box, which has a rather beautiful but very complicated gold chain lock, if you like. It looks like the chain is just knotted, so you sort of untie it, but then you realize it's one of those horrid infinite loop type of puzzles where as you pull it this way, it just does its other thing on the other side.
You know how the Guardian lock was solved, right?
So anyway, he entrusts that to you. Those are the orders of the vessel and should remain with the 1st officer at all times. It would behoove you not to attempt to open the box.
I'm not sure I want to take that, but okay.
It would be unwise for me to take it. There are many more opportunities for me to succumb to danger than it is for your vessel.
Not our problem.
I placed the box next to the 1st officer's stretcher.
We'll tell him about it when he wakes up, I suppose.
All right. So you set sail. Your follower does not seem to follow the ship. Once they've seen you offloading the elves onto the beach, they depart back down under the waters. Mios keeps a vigilant eye at all times and will quite happily report to you, sometimes disguised as a barrel. That was the most surprising. When a barrel started talking to you, realized that Mios was hiding inside of it, as he's trying to be deceptive, if you like.
It's a barrel just running around on deck.
Yeah.
It's like Metal Gear Solid level shit here.
It's like
Cardboard box.
So, yes, he reports at the moment that the elves were dropped off onto the beach. The observer left. The following morning, the 1st officer is awake and greets you with
Who's
a
on
rather
duty?
weak smile. You mean in terms of your crew?
Mm-hmm.
As in overseeing him?
Mm-hmm.
Me?
We'll see. Adricide.
oh, okay.
Yes, Adricide. You were on duty, responsible for sitting next to him in case he had a relapse or a squid
Fair enough.
floated out of his brain.
I'm just reading, really.
Yeah. He looks up at you and gives you a nod, asks for water, and then very politely asks, "What am I doing aboard your vessel?"
Well, you almost died, and your ship was sinking. So we apparently decided to take you on board and get you to some kind of healer that can help you recover.
Which I highly disagree with, by the way.
I'm not going to say anything.
I don't recall being rescued. I do recall the battle with the merfolk. It is likely that I was struck down. I did see the captain being dragged below waters.
Yeah, you might want to take a deep breath and then just look to your right. Just look down.
Before he does that, he says, "And the rest of the crew, did anyone else survive?"
Yeah, quite a few of them. They're on their way home, should be picked up soon, hopefully. And the third officer did, and how many crew members?
10 others, right?
10 others?
Yeah, 10 others. And we have 5 on our ship, or was it 4? 4.
4.
It was a logical choice to bring us, but I felt he sort of looks around the ship. This vessel seems as if it would accommodate more. Might I inquire as to why some were left upon the beach?
Paxton?
I'm not there.
Oh, you're not there. God
You're
damn,
just
it's
on your
just
own.
me.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. I'm confused today. Sorry. Well, you're gonna have to ask the other captains about that. I'm not quite sure about any of these decisions. Honestly, I think it's about we didn't want to have a lot of strange people on our ship running around, but we decided to take the people we could rescue and help them not die. And you were in a very, very bad shape. It took us hours to get you out of that. It was the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life.
He looks over at what remains of his torso, and
He dies of shock.
Yay!
he doesn't miss a beat. He looks over at the stump, he looks back at you, and he says, in which case I owe you my deepest thanks for any assistance you might have rendered me.
Mhm.
Would it be possible for me to meet with your captains, as you indicate?
Sure, I could just yell them over here. I'm Antrasai, by the way, and you are?
First Officer Reichenwill.
Woohoo! Nice. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, First Officer Reichenwill. I am going to go round them up. I'll leave you here with this water and a bit of, I suppose, just a little food, sort of snacks, I don't know, jerky, whatever. And I just sort of go round up the others.
All right. You're all summoned to the recovery hammock, I suppose it would be, or stretcher.
Ah, you're awake. Excellent.
I'm awake because of your actions.
Well, it was a team effort, but we weren't sure it would work out.
I am glad that it did. It is imperative that you inform... He looks briefly over the side of the ship, and he looks back. It is imperative that you inform the council at Qwethlan of our situation. I must make it there. The merfolk have changed their approach to this war. I believe this was our first encounter with this new weapon of theirs.
New weapon?
Each merfolk is no longer armed with the traditional blades that they used in the past. They now carry these organic creatures which fire barbs that have a debilitating effect. Well, you saw it first.
So venom, not poison, huh?
By happy circumstance, we are bound for Qwethlan.
That would make sense given the current ship's heading.
Can tell from here. I'm impressed.
Well, there's not much between there, I suppose. Then you can tell them yourself. We are strictly neutral in your conflict. We merely stopped because to do otherwise would be unethical in our eyes.
Well, most of us felt this way.
I am gratified that you chose to err on the side of ethics. I will ensure to inform the council of your neutrality in this matter. However, I believe the ramifications of this new approach to warfare is going to have an impact on, he sort of looks at the four of you, trade with the Brunei and the Cathar sodality as well.
We don't represent
our nations.
No.
No.
I have now been in the Cathar sodality for many years. And I personally intend to keep it that way.
As I said before, we are strictly neutral. However, we...
I think I understand. I'm fairly certain the council will pay whatever ransom you might ask for my return.
Sure.
No. That's
Again,
not.
you understand. We are
Tempting.
No,
neutral
Con.
in these matters.
We need funding. No.
Damn it, Con, stop it.
I guess. We had no intentions of ransoming you either. We will hand you over to your authorities once we make port, and the rest is your problem. And in fact, I should note that we probably would have done the same had we found wounded merfolk floating in the water. It's not about sides for us. It was about coming across people imminently about to die whom we had the ability to help.
That is not, in the remotest sense, logical.
Might not be, but what is logical is that I want to know what's inside this box and if it is any danger to the ship.
Well, that, yes, but this is their war stuff, Blackston. We don't need to know what their orders are.
Okay, then let me rephrase. I want to know if this box is to any danger to the ship.
Yes.
The box contains reports and tactical information critical to the success of our war against the merfolk.
Well, have fun with it.
Great.
The box
It's all
itself,
yours.
however, it does not pose any danger to this vessel.
Good.
Not
Should
gonna blow up, catch fire, anything like that.
That is unlikely,
Oh, good.
unless you attempt to open the box.
No, I don't want to know.
We won't touch the box, I promise.
Oh, even if it has a really interesting lock.
Frankly, we'll all be quite relieved to get you off the boat.
I do have one question, however, that will ague me if I do not ask it. What are you doing in a war-torn naval situation?
Just coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just...
Actually, I can
back.
put that in a way you will understand clearly. We are doing our job, just as you.
You're a circumstantial side detour. We were on, as I said,
We were on the way.
Qwethlan. And unfortunately, your war is in the middle of in the way, as it were.
Well, let's just say what we are doing makes your war insignificant, so we have a job to do.
No boasting.
I understand.
No,
Let him vent.
He's a high elf, what have you.
I am, actually.
Unless you want to Christian Riken will further, he doesn't ask anything more of you. His other three
Just a few rules. Please don't leave.
Don't leave the ship.
This room as goes. Are they all of them in the same room, by the way?
Yes. Yeah. I would imagine they're in the infirmary.
Right, that's what I imagined too. All right. Then neither you nor any of your other crewmen may leave the infirmary for the time of our voyage.
Understood.
In fact, I strongly recommend you take this opportunity to rest.
Right.
If there's anything you need, there will be a guard posted outside the door.
If he has a message that he wants to send to anyone, because I could do sending to someone official that I know in Qwethlan and then send please forward to elven ambassador or something, and then he can do a 20 words message if he wants to send ahead to Qwethlan.
What is our approximate arrival time in Qwethlan?
4 days.
In which case, then, there is nothing that the council will be able to enact in that time period. I thank you for your offer, but there is no need.
No one you want to call home to? Tell them you're all right?
Kind of leave the room.
Feelings!
Exactly.
The sentimentality is a virtue of your species, not ours.
Well...
Oh, that was diplomatic.
These are high elves. These are monks.
However, is simple.
But you know me, I'm stiff as a stick. I'm boring and non-sentimental. We're all like that.
I'll arrange for the ship's cook to ensure that you're provided with suitable nourishment. And then I sort of check over the condition of the others who are still, I guess, unconscious.
Yes. They, you've never had such such willing patients. They don't hold back. They don't make eye contact with you. They look directly at the floor or at their feet. You say, lift your arm. They lift their arm, and they don't put it down again until you literally tell them, put your arm down. You notice that in terms of the body shape that they have, their musculature is far more developed than the first officer's musculature, but there is a certain amount of there's a large amount more scarring of the skin, definitely hard labor, that sort of thing.
Tanned.
Yes, correct. That's.
I mutter to myself under my breath about
all right.
inequitable social
Done.
hierarchies.
I'm just brave. We're just going to burn down the whole planet and start again. Everyone's equal, except for us.
And
we're more.
Except the Oaken, right?
Yes.
Damn fool third officer person.
4 days later, and well, not even 4 days later, 3 days later, and you are greeted by a spectacular warship. This makes the previous elvish warships that you have encountered look like rowing boats. She has 5 titanic masts, which unfurl these. Again, it looks as if the entire sky is filled with sails. And she has 5 hulls that each sort of dip down into the water. She almost looks like this ballet dancer stretched out over the water, just running on these thin lines. And she obviously signals for you to heave to in preparation for...
No, you!
No, you move out the way. Yeah.
Are you compensating for something?
At the end of it, Nexon is like, my neck is so tired from looking up, because she does tower over the Windswift. The Windswift.
I just look at Nexon and say, well, be assured they're looking down on you.
Yeah.
They are Athenian. Of course, they're looking down on me, a mere Sajeti, the most powerful nation in the world. But yes, they are looking down on us. Yes.
Bitter. A little salty today.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Nexon. Little do they know that you are part of a great and powerful order.
I will be part of a great and powerful order, yes.
That too.
Oh, you're already a
Both
part.
are true.
We may be small yet, but we will be great and powerful.
Hopefully.
The ship slowly makes her way around the last horn of, or the last cape of the Empire, and Qwethlan stands before you. Very similar in design to Wraithwen, where most Elvish cities are large towers that are interconnected by even thicker walls with central gardens in between, creating these very airy spaces, again whitewashed with great blue roofs. This harbor is not as congested, and you notice that the ships currently in the harbor are mostly Elvish. No human ships, definitely none of the races that you would expect to see. You suspect that people have got the message. Do not sail anywhere near Thane Vasul. You will end up in trouble. So finding a berth is relatively easy. It doesn't take long. Do you inform the quartermaster that you have the first officer on board?
Yes.
Yes, and please make arrangements to take them away.
Yes.
Far away.
With his box.
Especially the box.
There is a detachment of naval marines that come down and escort the first officer away. As he's about to leave, he does ask to speak to the 4 of you.
Fair enough.
I am in your debt. There is no doubt in my mind that had you not arrived on whatever purpose you might be, I would not have survived, nor would my crew have survived. If you are in need of assistance, merely ask for me here, or if it is on the oceans, mention my name and you will be treated with as much more respect as can be afforded to those not within the Empire. You have my gratitude, he says, as he's stretchered away and off of your vessel.
Along with the rest of them?
Along with the rest of them, who don't say anything. Yes. The harbour is bustling. This time, though, it looks as if it's more in preparations for war. You can see troops lining up on either side of the jetties and the quays as they work into rank, and then you can see various ships are being outfitted. They're being changed from being cargo ships into troop transport ships. That sort of activity is the one that's going on. There are several eyes looking at you, trying to assess whether they should chase you away or not. But
oh yeah, try me.
You're a small ship and you're a bunch of humans, and whatever the hell is that furball thing wandering around.
Right.
It's unimportant to them, they realize very, very quickly. But you do find yourself in the great city of Qwethlan, known throughout Braxia as the City of Secrets.
Mm.
All right, can we secretly dock on the docks this time on a pier, or are we third row removed?
No. This time there is a berth that you can take without too much of a problem.
Good.
This is
Do we have to pay the dockmaster and say we are Mr. Smith?
Because this is the Order headquarters, right? Like the city where they're based. So we know this place quite well.
Yeah.
I assume.
Yeah, you've been here once or twice before, correct?
All right.
Correct. So you know where the headquarters are. They're in one of the larger towers. Mm.
I look over the bustle of the harbor and I shake my head. War never changes.
Go home.
Obviously it's changing.
I look at the same hubbub and just say, like, do you think the tailor is still open?
Good try.
The tailor?
Yeah, people who do clothing.
Yeah, why do you need
They're
a
probably
tailor?
extra busy right now.
Right.
All right, what are you doing?
Sure, I think.
All
Is
right.
there anything we need to talk with the crew about?
Us?
Is there anything we need to talk with the crew about before we leave? Like,
stay out of trouble.
Yeah, this is sort of where things are going to come to a head, I suppose, either way. If we don't come back, yeah, I mean, do what you have to do, really. Like, take care of yourselves. If we don't come back, blame it all on us, if you want to. Just say that you were forced to do it and we're very scary. Don't get executed.
Lieutenant Ty turns and she looks at you and she says, if you fail to come back, it will be our responsibility to rescue you.
right.
Oh, no, don't storm the Order headquarters for us. Ty.
Lieutenant Ty,
It's
keep care of the vessel for us while we are ashore.
I rather suspect you'll have trouble stopping Captain Saket from doing just that.
Yeah, this is true.
yeah. When she comes back from her stomach bug, whatever she has in the hold, very contagious.
I guess we can seek out. How long are we until we are supposed to meet the Arch Relica?
The Arch Relicar should be arriving tomorrow. It's now midday.
All right.
I got some time then.
Yes,
We
might-
should get first before we get into trouble, I suppose.
Well, might as well seek out the Archon then, or at least schedule a
A meeting.
meeting.
Go find Verus.
I imagine it's not a simple matter of just walking into his office and having a chat.
Well, that's what we did last time, if you remember.
Yes. So you are moving through the city, and you.
So what I want to do before I get there, though, is I actually want to go to a tailor and see my finer clothing being fixed and.
But of course, it can be done. All right, so that's not a problem. They'll get right on it. I assume you want it done speedily.
Yes, yesterday.
Yes, of course. That can be arranged. It's a few gold pieces because it's fine fabrics and you want it done tomorrow.
Yes.
Correct. What strikes you here more than in Wraithwen is the slave usage here is very different. In Wraithwen, because the city was more of an academic city, the presence of the slaves wasn't really felt. Qwethlan is a gigantic trading hub, and as a result, slaves are everywhere. Running around, they wear a loincloth, otherwise that's it. Shaved heads, their pointed ears clipped to indicate their status, running errands in all different directions. But it is, for some of you perhaps more than others, a very unusual city because as you walk, they get out of the way. Doesn't matter how busy they are, doesn't matter what they're carrying. The moment they see you approach them, they sidestep and then stand very demurely waiting for you to pass. And then once you pass, then they carry on with their duties. The center of Qwethlan is also quite different from other cities. The harbor actually flows into the center, and the administrative tower at the very middle of the city is effectively an island with a very large circular bay around it. And then the 6 towers that make up the actual city itself are around that bay. And you know where the Order's headquarters are. They're in one of the main administrative towers. Very, very grand place, as befitting supposedly the status of the Orders. You've been there before, so it's not difficult to get to. And as you arrive at the large bronze double doors that have the inscription of the Order emblazoned upon it, every recruit that's ever gone through these doors has done the touching of the circular symbol to the point that it's brilliantly polished as sort of recruits touch it and then walk through the door. There's perhaps even a compulsion for yourselves as you walk past just to touch it. I'm not sure. As you step into the big sort of waiting room,
Brush it.
Does not touch it.
I'd brush my hand over it for luck, I suppose.
Right. Look at it with a sort of sense of...
Yes, where once the great emblem was a symbol of sanctity, now it seems to be a symbol of corruption, doesn't it?
Jorek just absent-mindedly touches it as he walks
Right.
past it.
Yes.
Habit.
Absolutely. The room that you are shown into has got several captains milling about in it. It's always easy to tell a Order captain just on their bearing and the way they sort of command any room that they happen to be in. You notice one of them is, I'm just looking at the name here, a chap by the name of Hashen, Captain Hashen. He is actually serving on the Sky Skoy, which is the ship that Mutaru was assigned to.
How is he?
Hashen looks at you and he says, "Oh, Captain Mutaru, isn't it? He's full of the joys of spring running about. He's not here right now. He's on a clandestine mission into the goblin territories."
Well, that's okay.
You should fit right in there.
Well, the green paint he'd covered himself in certainly didn't make him look like a goblin, but he was fairly confident he could fit into their culture. It's Mutaru, of course, sent me here just to wait, and basically he said he's going to send me a sign when he's ready to get picked up. Something to do with, well, there's some strange goings on up in the goblin territories, let's just put it that way. And,
What?
well, there's a rumor that there's a goblin warlord who's trying to unite all of the different goblin factions together.
I'm sure he'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what we reckon. The warlord seems to have got quite a bit of power behind him. He's trying to pull off a new gnomish state, if you like. Unite the goblins under a single banner, do what the gnomes did. Anyway, Mutar will have a look at it. We'll join him up hopefully soon rather than later. But I'll pass along the fact that you mentioned him. I know that'll make him pleased.
Yep. Don't mention where we're going, though.
Oh, you don't mention it to him, or are you telling him not to mention?
I'm telling him not to mention where we're going.
Right. Right, you are.
I'm gonna just like smile at Con as I say this. Don't want to get apprehended, don't I?
Yeah. A very small elf comes up to you, very demurely, and she says something so quietly that it's difficult to tell. You think she said, "May I be of assistance?"
What? Speak up.
I am terribly sorry, sir. Might I be of assistance?
Kind of look at the others.
Oh, we're here to
want to go. Do we know where the office is?
Yes.
You're in the offices.
Yeah, but like the specific one of the
You want to go to Archon Varus?
Yes.
I will see if Archon Varus has a moment to speak with you.
Tell him the captains of the Windswift are here.
She nods and disappears through some heavy doors. A few moments later, she comes in and she says, Archon Varus will see you now, if that is convenient.
Of course.
Yes.
She guides you through these plush halls, richly decorated with woods that have been imported from all over the globe. Great portraits of previous captains hang on the walls, and books and bookshelves that haven't been touched sort of decorate the space. And lots of little clerks running around with maps and folders and files and things make the place look very, very busy. Every now and again, you pass a bunch of captains in conversation.
Nods are exchanged.
They sort of, yes, kind of go, oh, look, it's, good Lord, well, I didn't expect to see you here. And you're like, yeah, as you desperately avoid that luncheon engagement that they were definitely going to ask you for. Until eventually she pushes open these very large, dark doors, and you're ushered into this, it's rather dimly lit room, as a matter of fact. Great big heavy curtains sit over the very large Romanesque windows that would normally afford significant light and a spectacular view of the harbor in. And sitting behind the desk is the very gaunt features of Archon Varus, whom, when he sees you, he rises slightly with a smile upon his face.
Okay, first question before we get here. How was security?
You didn't see anybody standing guard. This is the headquarters of the Order, theoretically the most powerful entity on the planet. They command kings and pharaohs. Who the hell is going to attack that?
I don't know.
The entire headquarters is full of captains, so
yes.
we're not exactly pushovers.
No. I'm just wondering, because last time we had to give a weapons away and such. And so what are we wearing? Like, I assume I wouldn't be wearing my armor right now, right?
Yeah.
Loading,
You
as I said
probably
earlier.
have a sword with you. I mean, there's no reason not to. But
Yes.
no one asked you for their weaponry.
Okay.
Again.
I'm just checking in.
Yeah.
No particular reason.
Yeah.
George did not bring the bow here.
Wearing my fanciest coat.
Does have his brigandine on, though. The studded leather.
Wearing my fanciest coat,
always
like
wears
a swooshy skirt underneath, and just sort of feeling very sort of striding through the halls.
Yeah, I was just asking just because of friends.
For a friend. He stands with a smile on his face. Well, if it isn't the very busy captains, I am very pleased to see that you are still alive. There was some concern over the safety of your vessel a little bit ago, but I understand that has been resolved.
In a sense.
Well, yes, that's one of the reasons why we're here. But first, Have you heard of Vendadar?
Yes, it would appear that someone within the Senate pulled some strings, and the entire case was, I believe they said, determined to be of no interest to the people, and as such, the case sort of just went away, from what I understand. Vandadar was released. He's not allowed back into the Drow Republic, which on the face of it, I think is a fair exchange. So I really want to thank you for everything that you did down there. I understand there was quite an altercation that took place, and to get the Senate to decide not to prosecute, well, that is certainly a favor that I now owe you. So you merely have to ask, and I'll make it happen if it's in my power.
First off, we're in need of a private conversation with you, and with you only. And I was wondering how well this office is suited for that.
What critical level are we talking here? Is it from
Off the scale.
Utmost.
We're talking jailbreak of Naxa.
I understand, absolutely. Although I wasn't aware that that briefing was scheduled for today. Still, I'll make time for you. You're my favorite captains at the moment. If you'll come with me. Oh, anything to drink, he says as he starts leading you down the passageway.
Oh, yes.
Some
yes,
tea,
please.
Yes,
Very
please.
good.
Would be nice.
Some wine, maybe.
Some tea.
He waves a hand at a passing slave and says, 3 40s. Thank you. We'll be in the room, he says, rather quickly.
Ooh.
He takes you down a set of beautifully polished wooden steps. His shoes sort of make a clacking sound of someone who's very, very rich and can afford to have these very hard soles on his boots as he sort of paces
Ruins his own marble, kind of.
Yeah. And down another corridor, and then eventually he gets to, it looks to be a very plain door, which as he gets to, he places his hand next to, and you can see that that illuminates some glyphs, and the door swings open. Welcome to the room. If you've not been inside it before, you might find it slightly dislocating at first, but I assure you there is no more secure space in all of Braxia than in here.
Last time I heard this.
Yeah, I heard that before.
Got to make mine a double.
Yeah.
Double T.
Double T.
You enter into this room, and it is a very robust stone table with 8 chairs around it. Take any chair you like. He then enters. The room has no windows. The walls are padded with this, it looks like leather, as a matter of fact. And once he closes the door, there's that strange pressurized feeling of being in this very, very, very insulated space. And your voice has a very flat feel to it. There's no reverberation anywhere whatsoever.
It's an insanity room.
Yay.
What has come to light about this Naxa incident? It's a great embarrassment for the Order, of course. I'm not entirely sure what caused the whole thing.
Let's start with a light topic first. We were forced to have a passenger on board.
You were forced to have a passenger on board. The Windsw.
Yeah, just like look at the one who forced the passenger on board.
Yes, we got a stowaway on our way away from Naxa.
Did the stowaway violate any of our edicts?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. We were forced to kill him.
Right.
He was the Duke of Ulkov. Supposedly dead.
Yes, I thought
Now,
he was
actually
killed
dead.
by his compatriots 300 years ago, 400 years ago.
He was in Naxa.
He was in Naxa.
I see.
That was quite a bit of a problem once we learned what he was when we were in the Druids.
Yes, I would imagine that could have caused quite an incident, especially considering the relationships between the Druids and the vampires of Drakenmore. You must understand, Naxa is not necessarily my area of control. I would imagine that there were all sorts of horrid creatures kept down there.
I'm not quite sure about the others.
Probably, yes.
As far as we know, he was the only one who escaped. And
yes.
Yes,
and we took care of that.
According to Deacon, it's a credit to the Windswift that no one else managed to escape from the prison. Quite remarkable.
Credit to the Windswift more than that, actually.
But
what interests me is that I spent some time talking to him, and he clearly was no dragon worshipper, so it's a bit weird that he was in Naxa.
You can all make insight checks.
Mm-hmm.
16.
Insight. Oh my god.
15.
Why do I not have wisdom? 15, yeah.
Like, he is under the magnifying glass the entire time here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that should be fairly...
What was that, Con?
8.
8. As far as Con is concerned, what he now says is absolutely true. As far as the other three of you are concerned, the next things that he says are complete lies. It's highly unlikely that he did not have any dragon sympathies. Why would the Order place anyone in that facility that did not have a link to the dragons?
Why, indeed.
Doppelte Vernichtung.
Please, Archon. I don't mean to speak out of my place, but that was a pretty bald-faced lie you just told us.
Derek.
Arkham, we are here to speak about topics that are very dear to our hearts. That's why we asked you for this private meeting. We will speak brass tacks, if you will, because quite frankly, in our travels, we came across something that calls themselves Sector 13, which has become quite of a nuisance for what we are trying to accomplish, apparently.
Certainly, they seem to have an enormous amount of influence and power.
And very, very dubious motives.
And very little oversight or accountability.
Because, and I kind of lead over, because, as you might remember, the maps we gave you last time we met, they were supposedly stolen from Sector 13. Now, in the prison, Naxa, we came across the supposed reason why everything went to hell and back, which was, again, operatives from Sector 13. So, what is this Sector 13, and can we kill them? And I just say this in a kind of little, like, what's going on there? There's a problem, right? Like, let's solve it.
He stands up and looks at the four of you. You have been captains in the Order for quite some time.
I look at the two new ones.
And I'm sure that you have seen a great many things that require one to work in a grey area. The area that you're currently walking into is a very grey area. And if you want my advice, you will accept the fact that there is a Section 13 and that they are in existence, and then you'll go about doing your actual job of protecting us from the dragons.
Right, about that. That maybe you are not fully aware of what Sector 13 tried to do. Then let me
enlighten you.
File an official report. And I look at
this is not going in any report. Oh, I mean, it will afterwards, possibly, but...
And I say, we came across these gnomes from Sector 13, and they tried to, we don't know quite what, with the engine of the prison. And we're not quite sure what happened, but in the end we had to kill them because they were, well, modifying it, I would say.
Yes, very much so.
Now, I don't know from the reports in the prison, we couldn't quite tell what these tests they were trying to conduce were about, because even the warden of the prison didn't quite know. Are you aware of such experiments from Sector 13? So I'm getting it. I don't want to tell him everything yet, what we know, right? But I'm trying to probe him and kind of see where this goes.
Yeah, Jorik looks disapproving, but he doesn't say anything.
That I shared this or at the situation?
No, it looks like he doesn't like what you're saying.
What I'm saying. Okay.
But he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
I just like just standing near the door, just sort of looking vaguely uncomfortable about everything.
You say all the gnomes are dead that were involved.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know.
And was anyone else aware of what they were trying to do, in your opinion?
Well, the person who sent them, most likely.
Yes.
Right.
And the four of you, obviously.
Well, I'm not sure that we know what exactly they're trying to do.
I see, yes. And no one from your crew interacted with any of these gnomes?
No.
I see.
Okay, so insight-wise, is he going to try to kill us now?
He's certainly making sure that he's gathering up all the loose ends.
Yeah. I know.
What he's going to do with that is uncertain.
I'm just
Yes.
speaking a little bit out for everybody to be on the same page as I am right now.
From what I understand, he starts pacing behind the table. Section 13 was responsible for, and is responsible for, ensuring the successful operation of our vessels. I'm certain that whatever they were trying to do in Naxa prison was for the benefit of the Order. For us to cast any aspersions upon them and their significant contribution to the success of our operations, I think would be premature without more investigation. I'd hardly want to officially request Section 13 open their doors to us and allow us to tromp through, only to find that what they were doing was legitimately designed to aid us.
So we know they had ties to the Rex Drakari, because that is how they got...
Yeah, there was a letter that was sent by... Oh, what was her name again?
The leader of it, right? Was it like a female? No, I don't. I would need to...
I have the name somewhere.
Yeah, just assume we know.
The Oracle?
No. The name of one of the gnomes that are in high office
Okay.
of Sector 13. I don't know. I would need to take a look at my notes as well.
You still have this letter?
I assume Adusai has, right?
Adusai never throws away paper, so yes.
No, goodness. Of course I still have it.
That is good. It allows us to have evidence in order to move forward. Is that all that you retrieved from Naxa?
I ask forward. Forward to where?
There will have to be an official inquiry launched at the highest level. It will need to be handled with a delicacy that, quite frankly, is going to have to be rather... Well, let us put it this way. If Section 13 were to withdraw their support of the Order, there is a severe likelihood that our vessels will no longer be able to remain airborne. Now, that would pose a significant threat to our operations as well as to the return of those dread creatures.
So, okay.
We will have to
see. The ironies abound.
I don't take your meaning, Captain Khan.
No.
We've had a bit of a couple of weeks where we're a little on edge right now.
Understandable.
So out of game right now, does anybody of you want to continue this conversation for a bit?
It feels like we're walking a very fine line here.
Because I will now otherwise make Blackstone moves.
It was the out of character, it was Deacon Varda, by the way.
No.
Classified stuff was approved by Deacon Varda.
Yeah. But there was also I know there was also a letter from about the extra stuff they were sent from somebody else, but it doesn't matter.
Yes, but I think that was just signed Sector 13. I don't think that was the name.
That is details. I don't
think there was a
how
name.
this goes now will no longer matter.
Well, this is the most secure room on the planet.
Supposedly.
I say go forward.
All right.
I will have to speak with the Lord Archon onto this matter. Are you going to be staying long in Qwethlan?
There is one more thing I would like to I think we need to speak about.
I do have one question. Who is in the Order is responsible for the liaison, the interaction, the coordination with Section 13?
That would be Archon Dengathwin.
I see.
All right. There's one more thing that we and I wanted to speak with you about. When we were in Naxa trying to secure the place after the outbreak, we saw them, as in the instigators from Sector 13, trying to bar themselves in the engine room, which they were trying to modify, as I said before. So we saw ourselves forced to break one of part of the edicts, which is obviously never to enter such a room, because the foe had taken such a room.
They were extremely hostile and had already tried to kill us. Previously, they were
murdered prison guards.
Yes.
So we did then storm and take the engine room and saw what they were trying to do. As I said, and I was truthful, we don't quite know what they were trying to do, but we saw they were, as I said, modifying the engines
and themselves, I would say,
bathing in whatever magical energy was exiting the mouth of the opened engine. So we struck them down and secured the room.
Excellent work. You should be commended for it. That was not included in the Deacon's original report, understandably so. However, I will take this to the highest levels and recommend that you are given the highest citation possible within the Order.
That is a nice sentiment.
It is only the right thing to do, for heroes of the Order need to be recognized. What you did was incredibly dangerous, from what I understand. There's a reason why the edict exists. The output of the engines is rather dangerous. The gnomes know how to handle it correctly. That's why they're in charge of it.
Right. That is true. Now, you might also know, or might not know, the abilities of each of our captains, but just a glance gave us some insight in the nature of the engines. And I am here to ask you if you are privy to the nature of the engines as well.
If you're asking me if I know how the engines operate, I would tell you that I haven't the faintest idea.
All right, then let me rephrase this question. Do you know what powers the engines beyond the mere input of magical riff-raff we throw in it once in a while?
Captain Blackstone, I'm not entirely sure that I think your line of questioning is appropriate. If I did have information...
We are way past appropriate.
We realize what these engines are. We realize that they are indeed a tunnel to the dragon dimension.
Micro portals, I
believe. The mere existence of these engines breaks the first edict. They are portals to the prison dimension, they sap the energy directly out of that dimension.
Look,
And we saw, again, not quite knowing what the modifications were being, but we saw several of these beings on the other side trying to slither through.
yes, look, I'm not a portal expert, but as far as I could tell, they were widening that thing. They were trying to let them through.
Yes, that was the gnomes were doing. They were trying to
Yes.
open this rift bigger to let the dragons through.
We were
actively
this
working to
close
take the dragons back.
from an actual return of the dragons. If we had not been there.
Which was a fool's chance at best.
So we wonder, how can the Order operate these engines that are such a huge risk for the... All it takes is one gnome who changes his mind and is convinced by some fanatic to return the dragons, and they can do it. Because no one can go into these engines. No one can supervise these people.
Even know if that was the only team sent out by Sector 13.
Exactly. How can the Order operate these engines? We are working against our own beliefs.
And don't tell me fast travel, because I've seen enough of that without engines already.
If I were to believe what you say is true, the only way that I could possibly prove it would be to violate one of our most sacred edicts.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think that edict exists?
The edict exists because the engine's output is corrosive to anyone who is near it. The evidence
Would you
has
like
been
to speak to our gnomes?
predecessors.
There are ways to get inside somewhere without exposing yourself. If that is really your biggest fear, even though I am hard-pressed to believe that, as we are all sworn to prevent exactly the dragons from coming back.
I was aware that the portals in the engines were the means through which the engine drew its power. But there is no link to the dragon's territory. The anchors prevent that from happening.
Just out of game, did we see 2 or 3 of the dragons? Three, right?
2 black, 1 red.
Yeah, right. Aside from the names of the dragons that were already looking into our faces, I can give you, and I think I was the only one who saw them directly because of the helmet.
Yeah, I think so. No, you saw the portal.
Yeah, you saw the thing, and then
dragons.
Okay. So there were 3 dragons actively working on the other side, trying to get through, assisted by these vermin creatures.
Yes.
It is definitely the dragon dimension.
That was a portal. There are obviously ways around the anchors.
Yes.
And I must agree with Captain Con here. We have come in our travels among many ways of fast traveling. Might it be the druids, which are just moving around without...
I think that's a secondary issue.
The drow moving around easily as well. So that cannot be possibly the primary reason for keeping this charade up.
If what you say is true, do you believe that it is all engines? Or was it just the Windswift's engine?
That is why we ordered our gnomes to destroy our engine.
We have confirmed that it is 2 engines at least. It was the Naxa engine and the Windswift's engine. That is enough evidence for me to show that it is all engines.
And if it isn't?
One would have to have a look.
I think you're reaching with respect.
With respect, I am indeed. You understand that if it is proven that your claims are false, the 4 of you will be executed immediately for having violated multiple edicts of the Order.
We're aware.
And if we are right, we should kill probably everybody in the higher administration of the Order, which I don't feel quite comfortable.
Starting with Arkham, then Qwethlan.
but I try to see the reasonable solution to this problem and see if somebody, first, is a dragon worshipper in disguise, secondly, is gross negligent towards our goals, or three, is a complete imbecile who doesn't see the problems that arise with this kind of doing things. And all those three things, if any of them might be true, they at least tell me that these people shouldn't be in charge, which, again, would include you. But yet here we are speaking to you, trying to solve this in a somewhat more civilized manner.
Yeah, it's 10 points, Blackstone.
I'm trying.
If the engines are a portal to the dragon dimensions, I do not for a moment think that it is anything less than our highest duty to shut down each and every single engine that we have.
Can we roll an
See
insight?
why we shut down 2 engines already?
You can roll an insight check if you want to.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Just assume
Maybe he's just trying to get out of this alive.
16.
Oh my god, 14.
Yeah, he's
19.
He's actually telling the truth as far as you two are concerned.
Thank you. I just actually goes, thank you.
There is one name which you've already mentioned, Captain Khan, that I must speak to before we move forward. Naturally, we will have to investigate an engine, but we can't just walk into the engine in this tower, for example, and have a look around.
Obviously.
We will be stopped by our own people.
But you have a ship, don't you?
Yes, I also cannot just walk into my own ship's engine room. There will be questions asked. If this is the case, we will have to act incredibly delicately to avoid a civil war. There is only one archon who has served the order from the beginning, and if anyone knows more about it, it will be him. That is Archon Dengathwin. He was part of the founding members.
Convenient.
The liaison to Section 13.
He also happens to be the Lord High Archon.
So he's the High Archon, not the Archon.
He is considered an Archon. We generally keep the identity of the Lord High Archon relatively quiet.
Yes.
Well,
He is here in Qwethlan. He arrived on some urgent business about 5 days ago. So I will speak to him privately this evening.
Are you sure you want to do that alone?
I'm hardly going to storm into the office of our leader surrounded by members of the Order.
No, I'm just saying if it's just the two of you, anything could happen in there. Like, for your own safety in this.
I've known Dengathwin.
We don't know what his opinion on this.
Years.
Look, I'm just
Pressured
saying.
people do very stupid things and impulsive things.
Look, he obviously knows what's going on. He is obviously very pro this whole situation.
Perhaps, but we must give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yes, I'm
And
just
I
talking
agree
about
with
your
that.
security.
Yes,
But-
no, benefit of the doubt, sure, but you still need to not step into a
The lion's
possible
den.
lethal situation here. We need to take some kind of precaution on the off chance that we're right.
Let me speak in clear with you. If he wanted to, he could simply claim that you have acquired dragon knowledge and execute you. And the
I
problem would
have
be
acquired dragon knowledge. If what
Yes.
you tell me is true, he would
You
be
see.
within his rights to execute all of us, theoretically speaking.
and the other way
Absolutely.
around as well, and still we are not at our throats.
We have no evidence that he does know what's going on. I
Exactly.
certainly did not know. I knew that the engines were drawing power from somewhere else, but I was never told from where, and I didn't bother to question it because they served a purpose. If that is to create micro portals into this dragon realm, then one needs to investigate this. Absolutely, I agree. Section 13 is a no-go zone. They are protected by the Lord High Archon himself.
All right. So if you want to go there alone and speak with this person alone, this is your own, the risk that you do on your own. Might I at least implore you to leave a written evidence of what you're going to do and to relay it to someone else should something happen to you. Because otherwise, it is just the 3, 4, or 5 of us who see ourselves at the same problem that you see yourself right now at.
Could you maybe tell us about other archons that might be of the same mindset here that we could go to in case the worst happens?
Theory, all of them, right? That's how it's supposed to work.
Yes, every one of them should be
Hopefully.
against. However, you might try Erashiva. She is the Archon in charge of the Graith territories.
Which brings me actually to one more thing.
Before you continue, this dragon incident is the most important thing that needs to be dealt with. You think that Dengathwin cannot be trusted?
Yes, because either he, as I said, came to a conclusion that I cannot agree with, and you apparently don't agree with either, or he just had gross negligence going with him, as he didn't ask what's going on exactly with those engines and just wrote his name under the bill.
Desperate men do desperate things. This was just after the destruction of the dragon.
But he didn't seem to want to correct this behavior after things had settled down.
It has been 300 years.
Exactly what we are potentially proposing. Once you have inveigled your way into a situation from which there is no escape, if your alternative is simply to never have to escape, that can be a very comfortable space to remain in. However, it is wrong. I agree with you. I have an alternative.
We are open to ideas.
New World Order.
I could invite Lord Archon to a private gathering somewhere neutral in the city. If you happen to be there in the area, that might provide the support that I need as far as you're concerned.
That would be acceptable, yes.
I have trusted you with my life before. I don't see why I should start not doing so.
Thank you, Arkham.
Yes.
We do care for you and for the order. If you were to be executed for something, then we are back at square one. So we care for you both as a person and as a ally.
Yes. I mean, if we all, the risk here is that we all get killed and this continues and Sector 13 actually succeeds.
But why would Sector 13 now, after all this time, suddenly want to start bringing the dragons back?
I don't know.
Well,
Why
the
did
Hastari is a relatively new thing, don't you think?
I thought Gravler Tajak was executed and that whole thing was put to rest.
There might be other...
She was likely not the only one.
There is a direct connection to this Sector 13 business and the Draxtrakari.
Yes.
It's quite likely that not all Draxtrakari operatives or sympathizers have been accounted for.
As Adresai said before, there was a written order from Section 13 to install these operatives in Naxa prison that was signed and agreed by Deacon Vada.
Actually, what happened was there was an order from Sector 13 installing these gnomes, and then they were bringing a lot of odd gear and things, and the warden wrote a letter to the order to make certain that this was all right, and Deacon Barder responded and said that, yes, this is all perfectly fine.
Shut up, don't ask questions.
Well.
Right. Then, it is agreed. I will see if the Archon will meet with us this evening. I will make arrangements for him to come aboard our vessel. You will be my guest that evening as well, and I will entreat him to a private conversation, and you will be no more than a foot of wooden wall away from me. He won't have his attachés with him. We don't have very high security here in Qwethlan. There's never been a need for it. I'll then ask him, and if necessary, we will walk directly into the engine room of my vessel. I can only think of what my chief engineer will be saying when I do so. Now, there was another matter you had to speak of, the Graith. Yes, well, you were responsible for the release of Archon. That's that idiot. I don't trust him.
Oh, is he all right now, is he?
He was released.
What I wanted to talk is more in connection to this entire debacle.
Oh, yes, Archon Flunt.
Yes.
On our way to... Before we met you the first time, we got help from one of the Graith operators. Anyways, what we learned there was, and he showed us a hand, and I don't like, Con, do you still have the hand in?
Not on you.
It's in a box in the infirmary.
Back at the ship, do you still have it, or did you?
I thought we handed it over, didn't we?
They did.
We did hand it over. Right. You're correct. And we gave the hand to you, if you remember. One of the gnomes from Sector 13 we got in Naxa had a similar transformation markers on him. So
he swears in abyssal when you say that.
In abyssal? God.
I beg your pardon?
So here's a question.
That's rude.
That hand was handed over to Section 13 for analysis. They were deemed to be the most appropriate since
of course it was.
Deemed to be exposure to engine radiation. I never got a report back, but I assume that's because they were inconclusive or they were still working on it.
Cover up more.
Our engineers did tell us about that, actually.
They apparently have a whole team to deal with the mutations.
Yes, but there's no way that hand that you handed me was gnomish.
No.
Unless
No.
That was Graith, but it had the same markers of something that got exposed to these kinds of extreme radiations.
Except that it's impossible for that to be accurate unless the Graith have somehow managed to steal an engine. Which is possible because all the engines are accounted for. You yourself.
Or made their own.
As far as you know.
Have you seen a Graith vessel underway?
We have.
Well, that's a problem maybe for another time, but it is certainly something that gives me pause.
It is likely that the Graith have access to these engines as well, which
is impossible. The secrets of these engines is it's a very closely guarded secret, isn't it?
Well, let's first solve our internal problems before we think about external. But it still is connected and seemed prudent. It seemed prudent to mention here in this circumstance.
A couple of weeks ago, we all thought portals were impossible, but
here we are.
We are.
Or people escaping from Naxa prison.
Mm-hmm.
There is a famous saying: "Assumption is the mother of all."
And we'll be back next week. And thank you for joining us as the show comes to an end. Before you get to push our rating through the PG-16. Thanks for watching. If you don't stay for the review, have a good one until next week. Goodbye.
Problems, right?
Dude.
Problems.
Yeah. Assumption is the mother of all problems. Yes. There we are. And for your sins, Jenny, you're up first.
Yes. I'm perfectly fine and innocent. That was very interesting. I was terrified that you were going to stop the episode right before we found out whether the water was going to be on our side or not. I was like, don't say it. Don't you dare. I will go to Tokyo and slap you.
Yeah, we're a little bit over time, but I wanted to finish that conversation.
Yes, you don't want to torture us that badly.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that was. I felt like we like these downtime periods are becoming a bit like when other stuff is happening, like the attacks and the war and the mer people and the other NPCs. Like it would have been too much to hold up the game even more with stuff that happened on the way to the thing that we've been trying to get to. So like there are things that I was sort of I don't have time for that, and like character development that I'm gonna have to like put later and stuff. But it's like we went from almost no downtime to almost a little bit too much downtime, because you can't have a session that's just downtime, really.
Right.
But I mean, it's like, as I said, like we did get to Qwethlan and a lot of stuff did happen, and now we really are like past the point of no return here.
Yes, that's a good phrase to use. The cards have been laid bare upon the table.
Yeah.
And from here is where, as you say, now there's a very different, potentially different thing will happen or won't happen. Interesting. Con?
Oh, I had a fun session. That escalated quickly. I wasn't expecting to get to the Archon today, but there you go, or at least an Archon. But actually, this has been quite good and significant for Con, because it was important, actually, that Varys, apparently at least, is someone
receptive,
that can be an ally.
Yeah, it's not all horrible.
Yeah, I think if Varys had failed to impress, then Con would be even less inclined to do things the diplomatic way.
The right way.
Right.
It might, just become even more disillusioned. So that was significant, and kind of, thank fuck.
That glade was looming in the distance. That's what you're saying?
Go back and be a tree.
In the background, it's like, just say the wrong word or look too shifty and it's over.
Right.
So yeah, very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to this dinner. And well, I guess you need to find out if the Archon likes dogs.
Interesting.
I'm just hoping this isn't going to be the second dinner where we realise that a highly respected person turns out to be a dragon worshipper.
Well, if the high Archon is a dragon worshipper, that's stretching a bit, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, at least possibly a dragon apologist.
Best
I mean,
case
sort of
Section 13 is pulling the wool over everybody's eyes, and
right.
Oh.
We shall see.
We shall indeed see. Blackston?
Okay, so the first thing that I want to speak about is the out of session notice that I made, is because that was basically the point where I put the cards on the table, and I wanted to make this very obvious to everybody participating. To if this is something you don't feel comfortable with, just say something now, because that's where I'm going to go otherwise this way. And since the others weren't as vocally about it, and I mean Tobias said something along the lines of like, right? I just want to make doubly sure that everybody feels comfortable with the way that where this is going, because that could easily kind of push us in a certain direction, as we kind of spoke about. So that's something I think needs to be done in these kinds of circumstances if it's not entirely clear that everybody's on the same page.
Right.
Yeah, the first half of the session, we have some dudes. Seems reasonable, I think.
Yes.
And I absolutely am with Con's, or Blackston is absolutely with Con's kind of mindset that doesn't matter if it's elves, if it's dwarves, or merfolk for that matter. If somebody is in need of help, and you can render it, you're probably better off doing it, because you would want something like this happen to you as well. And we are the good guys, I hope.
for now.
So that's kind of the mindset. And coming back to the kind of good attitude, for me, good and bad goes more on the lines of selfish to kind of altruistic, or kind of like trying to help others. And that's kind of why, one of the reasons why I went that route a little bit.
Makes sense.
Then, yeah, obviously the whole kind of talk with the Archon, I tried to kind of be careful before I went in through the door into the house right away, right? Like being a little bit like, and I am not quite sure for you as a dungeon master, if you changed how he was going to be to us, because in the beginning he was quite shifty and he was quite kind of reserved and such things. So I was kind of like, okay, so now I'm putting the cards on the table. I'll see what he does. If he doesn't make a 180-degree turn, then I have my sword on me and it's going to get used.
Right.
Kind of situation.
Yeah, I was sort of eyeing the counterspell just in case.
Yeah, we were twitching with the side blades here too.
So I'm honestly, I don't know if you changed his behavior kind of to match ours, and where you thought this might have been going. Because it was very, as I said, like I feel like he's kind of asking questions that he would ask if he wanted to kind of get rid of the problems kind of situation going on, right? So, but I know, and we still can't be sure that he's on our page right now. He can just like set up an ambush for us as well as for the Lord Archon. I don't know, but it seems like a somewhat reasonable standing to give at least a chance rather than going in with a lightsaber kind of wielding.
Guns
flailing around, right?
This is the kind of situation where I'm almost for insight checks being a secret role that the GM does, because like at some point, like we know whether or not we rolled badly or not, and I think it's the kind of situation that might, if that's what kind of game you want to run, be really interesting if the characters trust this person and think this person's telling the truth, but the players don't necessarily know.
Right. And that is one of the things when I dungeon master, and I think you do this very well as well, is to not rely necessarily on the roll. As I said, like just assume he's under the kind of the magnifying glass. I think that was clear just from the kind of the situation going on, that I very much try to convey what he's trying to do, to make this, oh, interesting, yes, interesting, I totally listen to you kind of situation, or kind of give the players a chance to do a quote-unquote real-life insight check, right? And then go with a gut feeling. And right now, I don't know exactly. I mean, I think I trust him, but I'm not completely on his side yet. I just like, well, we'll see what he does, right? I mean, that's where you are in real life anyways, as well at some point, right? You're just like, let's see what happens, right? Yeah, and that's basically where election is right now too. And in worst case comes to worst, it's going to be an ambush against us. They're not there at all, and we need to fight our way out. Then that's that. And then that's going to be bloody, and it's going to be fun as well. And that's, I think, one of the major important things that you need to realize. It's like, even if you're wrong, it's not bad in a role-playing game, because like anything can be fun. Like figuring this thing out and kind of approaching it in a way which is like with like tiptoeing through the solution is great and satisfying to me, at least. It would be great. I don't assume everything will go smooth, but anyway, it's great. Or being completely double-crossed and then marching through a mere of blood to your victory, or not, or failing on the way, just as fun.
Yes, there is that benefit. Jarek?
First, I want to ask you. We never said micro portal. We said portal. So was that just a slip of the tongue on your end, or were you hinting at something when he said micro portal?
That's a good question.
Because I decided to not jump on it, because that's the thing I would do as an interrogator. Right. But I decided to not do that and just give you the benefit of the doubt that that's probably just a typo.
So I say that to use the term first in that conversation.
You did?
Yeah, I was sort of thinking about that, didn't I?
Yeah, but that's the problem in real life and this kind of situation. It becomes a little bit muddled, right? Like
it does, exactly.
The reason why I'm being cagey about the answer is that it comes down to Simon's question as well as to the Archon. And I don't want to give away too much because we haven't yet finished with the Archon. But people,
now, if you don't answer, that's fine.
Yeah, people who are in a position of power, and I think this is true in any enterprise, when you have subordinates come to you to ask you some very difficult questions, sometimes you just have to lie because it's better that way. whether it's to stroke egos, or whether it is to quell misconceptions, or whether it's because upper management has said, this is the official line that we are taking, and you will feed it to the subordinates, or there will be anarchy and death and failure. And I think that line for me is where NPCs get interesting, where you might have an NPC who really wants to help, but there are certain areas which they still themselves can't cross because they don't think that that is part of the problem, or, you know, so the approach, you know, is, I always think, is what does the NPC want and what does the NPC suspect? So when you guys arrived, he had these 4 very outstanding officers whom he trusts his life with. Then they start talking conspiracy theory, which he knows, if that's what it is these problem. 4 individuals need to be executed. So for me, that's someone who then starts to play this game of, you don't tell me what you know, because if you tell it to me, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And if you tell it to me, I'm duty bound to then report you. So let's play a cat and mouse game until we see where we are. As well as there's some stuff which juniors just shouldn't know, for a whole bunch of reasons. As you openly said, you had Grace on your ship, you had a vampire count who was supposed to be dead on your ship, you know, you had all these opportunities where there could be security breaches, which you have to be careful. And there are often times where it's like, this is a secret, and if someone raises it, gloss over it, pretend like you just don't know. So there's a lot of that going on, and it is difficult. To your point, Jenny, with regards to the insight checks, yes and no. Yes, it's a good idea because the players then are told, you believe this guy, and you don't know what your value was. So that certainly creates that sense of mystery and that sense of the unknown, and you only have what you've been told to rely upon. On the other hand, as a GM, I can use that as a tool to show, yes, he's not honest here, but he is honest here. So what that does is, as Simon was saying, that gives you, in a way, a false positive, because it's like, well, he was lying here, but he was telling the truth here. So do we believe him? You then personally have to decide what you believe on.
And I think just making the role behind the screen there and just telling, yeah, you believe this person, you would feel the likelihood that the player would feel extremely betrayed when you were told, yes, you believe him, and it was not true, is extremely high. But if he can come to the conclusion himself that he believes or doesn't believe, it's a much more less invasive kind of feeling, right? So that is why I try to kind of convey it through my role playing rather than just saying, yeah, you believe him, right?
Yeah. Look, it's difficult. I mean, a lot of players that I have played with for many years automatically don't believe anything that my NPCs say anyway. So that's kind of where I have to use the dice to say, no, look, the dice are telling you he's telling the truth, which means I am telling you the truth, even though you don't.
Also, it is the truth that he believes is the truth doesn't necessarily mean that it is, quote unquote.
Yeah. I'm just in a position as a player where I'm autistic and my character is not.
Right.
And like my idea on whether or not someone seems trustworthy is not necessarily the same as their idea about it.
Yes.
And like I got the feeling that he was like being upright about it, but I was just like, I
don't know.
Can't tell. I don't know. It could be a toaster for all I care. Like I don't.
No, you're quite right. You're quite right. It is an interesting question, but. Now back to you, Tobias. Now that you
sorry for that discussion.
Back to you, so we can wrap up.
I do appreciate the warning you gave us, Simon, about the whole out of session question. That should we push on with this, because it is something that affects all character, affects the entire game. So I appreciate that. Now I said we should push on, but Jono and Jenny didn't say anything, but we pushed on anyway. But I assume you were okay with it. So
speak up now or forever, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
The disapproval that Jorik was doing was completely in character. It was nothing I had a problem with. It's simply a professional thing that you never lie to an interrogation subject. And you did do that.
You obfuscated. And
well, okay, yeah, you obfuscated a lot,
and
yeah,
we call that sort of, you know, gray lies, as you don't reveal the entire truth and you try to make the person believe something.
Yeah,
you don't do that according to Jorik. So that was what that was.
Okay.
But
I'm fine with doing that because I wasn't clear on him yet. So
I mean, it's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with it. Jorik does, but I don't. When it comes to the session itself and what did I do and why, we had some nice character development for Jorik, both in the friendship and the camaraderie with Adresai. We're learning this whole teleportation exercises to try and work together. Jorik needs something like that because he's such a boring son of a bitch. So he needs someone to interact with. So that's very nice. It's cool to see them develop as colleagues and sort of starting to work together to work better in combat and becoming a team, not just 5 people running and doing their thing. So that's nice. And when it comes to the whole incident with the elves, it was also a nice moment for Jorik because it was an opportunity for me to start taking him in a more empathic direction, starting to care more about people as people, not as tools or something to be used, as he is kind of a cold person that way. So this whole him learning to heal and starting to understand Blackston's and Con's ethics and morale, you need to help people and why, that's also a nice thing to take him out of his cold shell a bit. Other than that, good episode. I liked this whole play with the Archon, getting to finally throw all the cards at the table and see what happens. So looking forward to what's happening as we go forward.
Yeah. To find out that, tune in next time.
Next week, absolutely. We will be back next week. And until then, thank you for watching from me and everybody else here. Goodbye.